The other party quickly spotted him, and when he saw the helicopter turning around and heading his way, he was overjoyed and smiled for the first time in 3 years. But just when the man thought he was finally going to be rescued, fate played another cruel trick on him. As the storm had just passed, the helicopter couldn't accelerate any further and started to shake, violently losing control and flying in the opposite direction. The man thought they had changed their minds about rescuing him, but in the next moment, the aircraft crashed straight into the ground, and he couldn't believe that after finally getting a chance to escape, such a tragedy would happen. But this wasn't the time to grieve. Rescue was the priority, so he rushed to the crash site, and by the time he dragged the pilot out, the man was already dead. But fortunately, the woman in the co-pilot seat was still alive, though a long cut had opened across her stomach. Even though it didn't hit any vital organs if not treated quickly, she could still die from infection. So the man frantically searched the helicopter for medical supplies and thankfully found a first aid kit, though it could only temporarily stitch the wound and proper treatment would require a hospital. But there wasn't one in this desolate wilderness, and the woman remained unconscious, feeling her heartbeat. The man felt some relief and began searching the helicopter for other useful items: a snow hammer, 2 signal flares, a large map, and instant noodles, which he quickly tore open and stuffed into his mouth for months. He hadn't tasted anything like this, and after preparing to return to the ridge, he dismantled the helicopter door to make a sled, wrote 2 survivors south of crash on the aircraft, placed the woman on the sled, and dragged her to his shelter, where he found her ID showing they were from different countries. He told her to clench her fists in an attempt to keep her conscious, covered her with every piece of clothing. He had then headed back to the helicopter, dragging the sled to see if there was anything else he could use. The pilot was frozen stiff, and he removed the pilot's clothes and made a grave on the spot. Then inside the plane, he found a gas stove and a lighter, lit a flame he hadn't seen in days, and even found a photo that made him smile, then looked back at his handmade sled. Things were finally looking up. He lit the stove, enjoying the long-lost warmth, and placed a family photo of the girl by the window, feeling deeply guilty if he hadn't waved. The girl's family might still be alive and happy now with a clearer and larger map. He remembered how he had once tried to escape, but failed not far out, so he began plotting a new route. Suddenly, the fishing line started rattling, and he ran over to reel it in, this time catching a big, fat Arctic salmon, which he cooked with the noodles for his best meal in months, cutting the fish with a knife and feeding a bite to the injured girl who could barely swallow one mouthful, so he kept comforting her. Days passed. The medicine ran out, and she began coughing and burning with fever, and the man couldn't sleep all night. He knew they couldn't survive here any longer, so he sat calmly in front of the wreckage, went back to the cabin, and carefully planned their escape, making more fish hooks, setting up a row of fishing lines, preparing several days' worth of food, packing all usable gear, and filling a pot with water. He wrapped the girl in multiple layers of clothes and sleeping bags, placed her on the sled, and left a signal on the plane saying 2 survivors heading north before dragging the sled away into the snow.